All right, welcome everybody to our April 2025 meeting of EGPOA's Board of Directors. See a couple more folks joining on the Zoom, so let's admit them in and move right. We have a long agenda, so we'll move right along to our first item, which is.
Pledge.
Oh,
I'm gonna do the pledge in a moment.
I don't think we really need to, right? Like, kind of was like this thing. I don't know. I think I'm fine with us not doing it. I mean, we're not like a government body. It's sort of a tradition, I think, that Michael championed, which was fine, but I don't know. I think it's time to move on from it, but if folks want to do it,
I would love to do.
feel free. All right, I'm gonna move on for our business session now. Call the order and ask the secretary to take the roll.
Patrick,
Here.
Alana,
Here.
Earl, here, Dan, here, Tom, here. Leslie,
Here.
Joel. Beverly,
Here.
Alex, here, Zach, we have a quorum.
All right, first item is approval of our March 16, 2025 minutes, which is tab 1 of your board books, board members. Everyone had a chance to review. Can I get a motion?
I motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say no, because there was a statement that was written public and is not included in the minutes.
Would you like the motion to amend the minutes?
I would like to motion to amend the minute to have my statement included in today's approval of minutes for March 2025.
Excuse my ignorance, what was that? What that
Does
statement?
the motion have a second?
Can I ask what the statement was?
It's the statement that Patrick read of me.
Oh, I apologize, okay.
It's all right.
Does the motion have a second?
I'll second, makes sense.
Sorry.
Yes, I'll second, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion to amend having been made and seconded.
Can I just clarify, Leslie? There were, the original statement that you emailed Patrick, there were pieces of confidential information, so the statement that will be included was a statement as amended by Patrick to redact that.
Exclude the names that were mentioned in the statement, correct?
Okay,
That's
thanks.
fine. That's perfect, fine.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed.
I oppose.
I oppose.
3. Any recusals, any abstentions? Seems to pass. Okay, with the amendment, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
As amended.
As amended.
I motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, you made it. All right, let's move on to our member homeowner comments and questions, and just apologizing for the sound of my voice, guys. I'm obviously getting over a bit of a cold. Let's go in the room first, see if folks have anything you want to talk about. Okay, seeing none, I see Marcy's hand up online. Marcy, if you'll unmute.
Yeah, thank you. So I understand your reasoning for having public comment in the beginning, and it makes sense, you know, logistically and efficiency wise. But I think it's so important for people to hear what happens in the meeting and to then be able to make comments about what comes up or what we've learned or what we hear. So I would request that comments have an, you know, opportunity at the end as well.
I hear you, Marcy, but we have such a long agenda. Having 2 points to do that, I don't think is very efficient for our meetings. So,
Well, then maybe
noted.
only at the end and skip the beginning. We just let the meeting happen and then public comment at the end.
Again, I appreciate it. I know you raised it last time. I find that this is working well, so I think we'll keep it that way. And again, it's, I think, to make our meetings more efficient, because we do have this long agenda. So
Efficient, but
any
not
other questions?
effective, because people
Okay.
don't have an opportunity to say what they feel is very important to the community. So
Or see your comments noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Any other questions or comments?
Right, speak to that point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm ignorant of this, but is the office emailing the full agenda to all homeowners prior to the board?
Mhm.
So if the homeowners are reading the agenda, they would probably have that ability to comment prior to the start of the meeting anyways, because they would see that.
They would see it in advance, they have it in advance.
So if we can redirect the comment back to the homeowners to make sure that they're reading the agenda prior to the meeting. They're probably more educated in what we're doing over.
Great point.
It's in the emails and it's also posted on the Facebook.
Great point.
So also remind the community that the emails for every single board member are posted, as is the email to the manager. And if you have comments or questions about board business following the meeting, you're welcome to email any and all of us to give us your feedback.
But I think it's important, Dan just called out something, we all are responsible as board members to, if you have a comment, going in there. The information is sent to you prior to the meeting, and that courtesy is also extended to all the residents, so, I mean. It's the same as us, we have an opportunity, we need to come in prepared. The ask would be for all of the residents to definitely take the time, prune the meeting agenda. If there's any open questions, you don't even have to wait till Sunday when they have the meeting. You can actually communicate in advance. And if it's something substantive, it'll be brought up in the meeting. So I think Dan's point is fair.
All right, Melissa?
Hello, hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I'm the administrator and daughter of Pablo Rodriguez. He owned 44 Stratford Road. My father has since been deceased in January 2022 during COVID. I'm in the process of selling the home and I'm trying to obviously get all his matters taken care of. I'm trying to take care of the HOA and the delinquent water bills. It was not delinquent during when he was alive, it's after. I've been trying to take care of all that. I just wanted to bring this up in the meeting if it's possible that I could take care of the arrears of the water and the HOA, and if you would be so kind as to remove penalties and fees just to make life a little bit easier for me on my end. I know that's not, I'm just asking.
Melissa, I'm not to cut you off, but we do have your request. I've gone over the emails with Nick. It's on our agenda. You don't see it on our public agenda because it's a discussion of a particular member's account. So we discuss that in our executive session, but we are scheduled to talk about it today.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't. Thank
No,
you.
you wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. No,
Thank you.
We will.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
That's it.
Any other questions, comments? Sorry, we have two folks who just joined us. I want to offer one more chance or opportunity for anybody with questions or comments. Okay. Seeing none, let's move along. We're going to go to item C, which is our management report. We'll start off with the vote slip permitting process and update from Nick.
Okay, so we did at our last meeting have a discussion and ultimately a vote regarding changing the process, but after speaking with the voting community, we've decided to table the process for this year back to the prior accepted process of first come, first serve. However, with a conversation with the voting community, we will be looking at other options and all options for future years. But we will be using the normal process for first come, first serve for May 1st. And an email will be going out tomorrow to the community of the process, the forms, what's necessary. And we will have first come, first serve on May 1st for dock assignment. And that process will take place as normal. Earl?
Mr. Nick, it's the expectation that the community, those who vote, and I don't vote, will actively be a part of the discussions on how it's curated next year in advance.
Absolutely.
So the working partnership.
We actually plan to have a discussion this summer when most of the voting community is here.
Yep.
And then we'll report back to the board for a further discussion for next year's process.
Patrick, I only say that just because it just allows, at least with folks here, that they're able to be a part of the conversation, because that was one of the concerns that came up, that there were folks who wasn't here when decisions was made, so at least we give them that opportunity to participate.
Yes. Feel free to roll through.
Yep, I'm trying to pull it back up. Okay. You just give me the next one, Patrick.
Sector 1, short-term rehiring, building attendant hiring update.
Yep, sector 1, as we may have seen, sector 1 was rehired as our security provider here for the entertainment, and will also be back at the pool once the pool reopens. It is for this year only. We are revisiting whether or not we will continue with security. as a long-term solution, or if we will be replacing security and building attendants as our own employees, and we'll be evaluating that throughout the length of the contract this year. So far, security has been good, other than one item that actually came up last evening, which we are looking into, and that is utilizing security services outside of the Entertainium and other locations on the community as well. So we'll be following up with that as I received a report from a homeowner board member last evening. Opening contractor, any questions on security? Okay. Let's see, pool opening contractor bids update. We did speak to a few pool contractors. Only one offered a formal bid. I'll footnote that and say we did also receive a bid from Anthony Freeman, who is an employee of the water company, a former employee of Emerald Green. However, we decided to go with, based on what was provided to us, B&B Pools and Spa from Chestnut Ridge, who offered a formal bid to open the pool. This bid is to open the pool and provide the startup chemicals for opening in the amount of $5,831.17. And they will come and actually open the pool this coming Wednesday. And in addition, we would like to also authorize them to replace the chemical feeders, because we're going to change out the tablets, the chlorine tablets that we're using for the pool. We're using a tablet now, which is a proprietary tablet that was sold to us when we put the pool in service. And it's a 70% tablet. We want to go with a 99% chlorine tablet. The reason for that is basically there's a filler material in these tablets and we don't get the true benefit from them. So we're buying a lot of these and we're using a lot more than we actually need to. And they're a high cost tablet. So by doing this and by investing some additional money now, in the long run, we're going to end up using less product and we're going to be able to use a more readily available product. So for an additional $4,054, we're probably going to save about $12,000 a year in chemical costs, because we will not have to buy the proprietary tablet that we're purchasing now. So I'd like an authorization for B&B Pools out of Chestnut Ridge for a total of $9,885 to open the pool and install the new chemical feeder systems. Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick, I might have missed it, but are you gonna maintain the pool throughout or is it just, this is just the opening?
This is the opening and the installation of the feeder system. We are actually going to maintain the pool once.
This doesn't include any maintenance throughout the year or throughout the summer?
Correct.
Dan?
Is there a reallocation of costs with the old feeders?
Not yet. We have not determined with them. They will not purchase them back or sell them back on our behalf. But we can look to sell those items. There's also.
Is there any sort of idea on the value of those feeders?
So I've looked at selling them. We might be able to recoup somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 on their sale. There's also right now about 18 hubs of the tablets that we have. They may have an interest in purchasing those. We're waiting for them to get back with a price on those.
Maybe we can recoup some of the money back.
Some of that money back.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
the percent of chlorine in the tablets versus the new feeder system that you're gonna be
Sure.
putting in? You said 70% and 99%. Is there gonna be any problems with like skin irritation or anything?
No, so what's gonna happen, we have a chemtrol system and what that does is it balances the amount of chlorine you
Okay,
put in
that's
the
fine.
pool.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure we're not gonna be
I
having.
know.
But it's not 99%, you said 90,
The tablets are actually a 99% tablet.
99%.
Right.
Okay.
I know there was some concerns last year with people's hair getting agitation.
Yeah, eyes burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more of, so it doesn't really matter that the percentage of the tablet, it's the amount of chlorine you're putting into the pool. And that's a different issue. You can use a 70 tab, a 99 tab, that has no issue with it whatsoever. It's the amount of chlorine you're putting in, not the percentage of the tablet.
So we could technically still use these other tablets,
The 70%
Yeah.
tablets, not with the system that
not
we're
with this new
putting
at
in.
all.
Correct.
A motion to approve.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who's second, I'm sorry.
Tom.
Tom?
Or Tom?
Yes.
Any recusals, any abstentions, hearing none, it passes.
Just to piggyback on the back of that, so Anthony, Maneri, who is working part-time for us at the moment, and Anthony Borello, who is junior, our grounds person, both, have taken the CPO. Anthony Maneri has his CPO and Junior is completing his on Monday. So they are both, CPOs, or will be CPOs as of tomorrow. They will be present for the opening of the pool this week. They will have the resources of B&B available to them, and will be able to operate this pool. And B&B will be available on a consultative basis if we need them. Dan, sorry.
Yeah, we've got, is there a change in the timeline on opening of the pool
I
this year?
was gonna bring that up, because I don't think we'll have time between now and our next meeting to set that date. We should do that now, as we've done in the past. I think what we did last year, Dan, you might remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but we opened at Memorial Day, but we didn't heat it until Father's Day or so.
No,
What was that?
I think we opened it Father's Day. We wanted to open it Memorial Day, but it was fully open Father's Day for everyone.
Just to recall, we did open it earlier
It
and
was the week before.
we had not allocated for pool staff to be on those extra weeks, the extra, well, everything that goes into that decision. So just think about that because we have already set our budget for the year.
Okay.
We've accounted for the longer weeks starting June 15th, but that will increase our budget.
So right now.
So when we budgeted, did we budget for opening May? or-
15 weeks left. The previous year, we only budgeted for 12. So this year we did 15, but that would take us to the middle of June. If we want to open it earlier, we have not allocated the budget for the additional. Also, we have a lot of high school students that work for us, so you're not getting them.
Right.
That's
So do we know the runway that it costs to open it up on a per basis, or we have to work those numbers?
people, I believe, years ago when we left it open in September, because it was, I think it was like a $7,000. It was like, we got some, it was either a weekly note that we heard or a monthly note.
That's everyone's propane. So,
Yeah.
question is, if you wanted to open it early, do you wanna open it with the availability of people using it unheated? And then-
That's what happened last year. That was the decision that we made.
The expense is really the running the propane and the heating.
The double security, the pool attendants, all those
So,
things.
so why don't we say we'll target it for mid-June, which I think is the 15th, if I'm right, that's Father's Day Sunday. But we can keep our eye on it and on the weather, and if it looks favorable, and we wanna open it earlier, sans heat, we can do that. Does that
When's
sound-
do we have a schedule for our board meeting next month?
Yeah, we
May
do.
18th.
May
is our
18th.
schedule.
So, I assume we'd be comfortable to revisit this May 18th.
Yeah, but any changes or any
Yeah.
things that we could potentially open it earlier, we have the ability to open it earlier, it sounds
Just
like
without heat.
it's just staffing and.
The other option is, we could look at a scenario where it's open only on weekends
Mhm.
potentially.
That might
I like
be a
that
great
idea.
option.
Mhm.
That's what we did last year, guys.
Is
That's
that it? Okay. All right, so nothing official, we'll keep our eye on that.
So we're not gonna set a tentative date right now, we'll wait till May or.
Well, I think, are we,
We are scheduled for the Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
That is the hard plan regardless, but we can tentatively, look at earlier dates if weather breaks and we have a very warm,
yeah, you wanna get a warm pool, it'll be Father's Day.
yeah. But yes, we can definitely, look at that. And we can also, as we kind of dig into this and look at what numbers are looking like, if there's some money saved there in chemical costs, because again, remember, we're looking at some potential savings there. You know, maybe there's some money we can reutilize for having some additional time at pool available, so.
Okay.
Keep an eye on that.
All right, next up, Clubhouse.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm on.
Hey, Joel.
Hi, Bill. Okay, clubhouse, furniture and, fees. So, in speaking with Alana, offline and Chris, we were talking about, the clubhouse rentals and, my understanding is that when we completed the renovations, we did not procure any new furniture for the clubhouse. And folks, when they rent it, have to find furniture from a local third-party vendor. And in fact, we ourselves have gone out and rented furniture for various events that we've done in the clubhouse. In fact, last year, we spent just about $1,000 for table and chair rental for 2 events that we held, I believe, in August. So we went out, we shopped it, got some pricing, and we found that we could purchase 100 chairs and 15 tables, inclusive of tax, for just under $3,300. And that would give us basically what we need to operate the clubhouse. With that said, we could then offer that to our homeowners when they rent the clubhouse and save them the trouble of going out and renting it from a vendor, and save the wear and tear on our building of that furniture being moved in and out every time. Right now, a homeowner spends about $400 to $500 when they rent the building from us and then go out to a third-party vendor to bring that furniture in. So the recommendation is, and ultimately up to you, that we think about increasing the clubhouse rental fee to somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 to $300 from the $100 that it is now. And that we provide those tables and chairs to folks, and that we invest approximately $3,300 in the furniture. Last year, we had 30 rentals. Currently, we've had 9 already, and we have 8 on the calendar. With that being said, if we do make this investment and we do make the increase to the rental fee, we would reach out to those 8 folks, ask them if they've made arrangements for furniture yet, let them know that we would have it available, and then ask them to pay the difference in the fee so they could get it from us. If they've already made arrangements and it's non-cancelable, then they would have to stick with what they had. And then what we would also do is send out an email to the community, letting them know what weekends are available to rent the clubhouse. And not necessarily make this a profit center, but let folks know it's available, how much it is, and now that we do have furniture in there. Because I think some folks are dissuaded from using it because of the fact that it's an extra step in the process that you have to go through in order to be able to use the building. So that's my recommendation. I can answer any questions you might have.
Earl's just a bit quicker, so go Earl then Dan.
Just, I 1,000% agree. Because this was brought and negotiated and discussed with the oversight committee, we need to go back to that same group of persons to get them to close this out, because there was a bunch of noise that came up, and as a board, we sent that back. The oversight committee got, some pretty vocal and diverse group of persons. I'm 1,000% in agreement. I just think we owe it to them to at least converse with them, and then if it's okay, come back with a final decision.
Talking about the rental fee.
Yes, the rental fee is because I get what you're saying, but also that rental fee was something that was heavily debated at one point in time. Why do we have to pay for it? And, we live here, we pay, HOA fees. I just sat and listened and tried to moderate, really allowing them to drive that. I would just ask that you allow me to go back to that same group of persons and take these talking points, allow them to respond. I don't think we're gonna have much of an issue, but I think we owe it to them because they were the ones who corrected.
If ultimately that's what we decide, though, I would take the whole thing back. I don't think we're gonna
No,
having
no,
the
the whole
ability to
thing,
spend
the whole
without
thing,
the
the whole thing, the whole thing.
revenue
No,
offset.
you're 1,000% right, the whole thing.
Did,
Where's the storage gonna be?
The storage would be right in the building. I wouldn't take it out.
So we're gonna keep them set up, all 15 tables, or
No, the tables, you can break them down and stack
still be in
them.
that far side?
Yeah, there's the back room, that there's like a copy machine in, a
Yep.
piano, I mean, there's some stuff back there you can move around and clean up.
So budget wise.
Tables and chairs are always kept there.
Sorry.
Um,
No, I didn't know.
that would be ultimately a decision we could make as a group. I think if we're gonna send it back to oversight, we can have a further discussion on that.
If you allow me, then I owe it to
And
you.
really maybe get Joel's input on which one you want.
Just, it sounds like they're opposed, that the.
No, it's not about our position. I think we owe it to the same group who curated the original, policy. If we want to change, they need to respond to
I
it.
don't know that that's necessarily an amendment, or do we want to?
Because there's a lot of
Table and
meetings.
post it and.
But can
approve
we
it
make
next month.
sure that we address this at our next meeting in May?
Yeah, we
Like, get
can,
a
yeah,
definitive
yeah,
answer by
yeah,
then.
yeah, I
So, like,
we're
regardless
meeting.
of
We have an oversight committee Tuesday.
Yeah, so,
I'll put that on the agenda. The other thing of it is that should we be concerned about the safety, or are we in a position to where when someone commits to the rental that they could have some type of medical release? Cause as corny as it sounds, the waivers, moving tables and kids, that opens us up.
it would, we have that waiver anyway when you rent them.
I don't know, I've
Yeah,
never
we do.
read it, so if it's still.
Yeah, it's also a waiver when you
Okay,
rent
alright,
it.
cool.
So do we want to formally motion a table and see if
I
there's.
don't
a
think we
second
need
on
to, it
that?
wasn't even,
We're just good.
yeah, there wasn't
There's
a,
no motion on table, so there's no need to table.
I'm just,
So to that point,
Any
then,
chance?
there's two agendas, excuse me. We have a point that we need to address in the oversight committee that we're having this week, that'll be point 2. We'll make sure that, myself and Nick come back to your point, Beverly, with a definitive of exactly how we're gonna move forward.
Patrick, you might want to, if the oversight, you wanna, to give them deference, I mean, you're having a meeting Tuesday,
Mhm,
and this gets approved, since you have 9 people scheduled,
mhm.
and you're probably gonna be coming up, rather than vote on this at your May meeting, you might just wanna do a little special email.
Online
approve it.
voting.
So,
well, yeah, we're gonna talk later about our email voting habits.
okay, I'm just saying,
But
but to make it easier for Nick to deal with the 9 people.
Hey, go ahead and give it an address, okay, all right, that's fair.
if we're gonna throw it back to the oversight, maybe we can include something else. If we're gonna add, obviously the fee and all of that, because we're adding materials and product availability. Maybe what we ought to do is we ought to add in an insurance cost to each rental. If a homeowner damages a table or a chair and they opt into an insurance package, maybe $25, $50 per rental. That'll cover the cost of whatever they might damage on those. And it also give you additional resources to cover the expense.
Can I just ask, just
Just throwing that out
so
there.
that, to frame your meeting, you know, just to ask, is the disposition of the board right now to approve this as is?
Yes.
Yes, so
Yeah, that's why
I'm not asking for a binding vote, like, is the disposition of everybody at this table right now to give this a green light?
Yeah.
So I think the question for the committee then is, why not?
No, I think, but I don't, when I say this, I don't think that they're gonna say no. I just think that you owe them, we owe them their
it's fine,
input.
it's fine.
That's
We're-
all, that's
we're
all,
not-
yeah,
We'll push back.
So just throwing it out there, maybe a damage protection waiver into that contract with the homeowner.
So I'll call Nick tomorrow, Nick and I can take some time, discuss it, make.
Is that fair? Is that something that?
Yeah,
I have it in minutes.
yeah.
But isn't that, the fee would be like,
The fees,
cover that?
No, it'd be supplemental, if it's $250, that's what the rental fee is, and then it would be maybe a 25, 50, something small and nominal, but to his point, as insurance for the equipment.
they could decline it, if they choose to decline it.
Just my
Isn't that
ask
with the
is,
security deposit? Isn't there a security deposit they post up?
do you want?
They don't currently.
Guys, it's gonna go back to committee.
Yeah, so just do me a favor, my ask is, let me curate it, I'll connect with Dan, we'll spend with Nick, we'll spend 30 minutes, make sure it's flushed out. We have a meeting on Tuesday, it's 2 agenda items, I'll make sure that I leverage the data points, come back to you all via email Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and get this thing moved out.
I'm only bringing it up now because going back to the committee, why not just
Get everything.
try to?
Yeah, he's committed to revisit it.
Yeah, I'll
To visit that
look
point.
at it.
Okay.
I'll look at it completely.
Got it. Let's go to the next item, which is the purchase or rental, equipment for grounds crew. Nick, you want to present this?
Yes, so in your books, there is a proposal regarding the purchase of a piece of equipment known as a Mahindra, 2019 Mahindra 36 horsepower 4x4. We had a discussion in the workshop a couple weeks back regarding this. It was asked to look at other options. We did explore an option for the purchase or lease of a new piece of equipment and whether or not we could receive financing on that. There was an option for financing. However, that financing, as I advised Joel in a separate conversation, did require a personal guarantee. And therefore it did not appear to be viable for us to do that. So we went back to M&H in Middletown, and the Mahindra proposal is to purchase a used 2019 piece of equipment that has approximately 290 hours on it. This equipment would be for various purposes: brush hogging, moving earth, sand, stone, mulch, snow, digging, snow moving, etc. So it would allow us to brush hog the golf course, York Rake, the beach. It would allow us to do pretty much a lot of the work we would need here on site. Total cost with all the associated items we would need would come to $28,781. However, we could break it up into pieces, so it would not necessarily exceed the purchase cap that we have in place.
You first.
Did we look, we have two new dealers, local. Mahindra, whatever the name you mentioned, they used to be here, they're no longer here. So you have another brand that came into did we have a chance to look at that?
We didn't look
Also, you got Bobcat, which I'm sure they're gonna be looking to get into the area.
I don't know, it's gonna change the financing.
Yeah, we didn't go to them, Alex, honestly. We started at MH because that's who we've typically had a relationship with, and a lot of our small equipment is serviced by them. And we were trying to do this quickly because of, some of the needs that we have. So that's why we ended up with M&H, and they did have a used piece of equipment because we were looking at cost.
If I haven't pulled this out of the budget, but we budgeted for rental of maintenance equipment.
Correct.
So this would be in place of that.
It would be in place. It would exceed that number, but because of what we had discussed in the workshop, in the past 2 years, we've spent approximately $20,000 renting equipment in 2 years. What we were looking at is what would be a longer term solution going forward to limit our expenses going forward. So that was the thought here.
What on this piece of equipment, is there any kind of like warranty in case anything happens with it after we purchase it?
There is not a warranty because it is a used piece of equipment, but because of the age of it, it's a maintainable piece of equipment. So that was why, we were looking for something fairly newer. Again, a newer piece of equipment is going to come with a warranty, but because of what it is, we would have to go out and borrow money from a bank as opposed to borrowing it from a dealer. Yes, or purchase it outright.
Excuse my ignorance, I don't know nothing about none of this. Do we at least have the opportunity to get some type of service contract or something from a maintenance perspective, or that's not an option?
We did ask about purchasing a warranty contract, and they don't offer like an extended warranty, like a car, they don't have.
It's 6 years old, so.
Is that good or bad? I don't know.
No, they're just not gonna do it. Typically, if you're gonna buy a piece of equipment, they'll give you, depending on what type of use you have, 90 days to a year.
Okay.
Joel, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I have two questions. One, can we have we have an independent mechanic that can look at this thing to see if
what type of shape it's in, besides you, Nick, just so we can comment on that. And then the second question is, do we need to buy a trailer to hold this thing around? And if we have to bring it into service, you know, we have a way to do it as compared to them charging us to come up and back and forth. So,
Yeah,
that's
the
my
trail,
questions.
on the second question, trailer's in the proposal.
Oh, good.
But I asked for a not to exceed on that because I do want to look at the trailer as an option from a different dealer, because I think we can do a little better on the trailer. As far as an independent mechanic, we could look at an independent mechanic to have them look at it. But again, it's, MH is a fairly reputable dealer.
I just looked at the pictures and I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly confident that that is, the machine that my friend had owned from.
Is it good?
From Zoom.
The same machine.
And,
I see your resume of your friend, I see it.
he's no longer in the state of New York, but he
So
barely.
you're warranting it.
I have a question about, where this comes from in the budget. So it looks like we had about $21,000 budgeted this year for equipment leasing. In the financials this month, we've spent about 5,000 and change so far. What's the split that you're proposing between, our budgeted funds for equipment leasing and the money we need to draw from the TNC or some other money, bucket money?
So I guess, again, it comes back to equipment leasing or equipment rental. I think the majority will come for the purchase of it for the remainder from that. The remainder, and again, becomes a longer term question. Do we want to completely deplete that line? Yes, I believe so. And then I think the balance, we would have to just move from T and C.
So your baseline proposal is to zero out the about 15,000 from the remaining equipment lease budget and then pay the 13,000 from TNC.
Yes,
It's 13,780.
I think that still keeps us under the limit.
Not to make it any more challenging, what's the truck reserve?
20, I think that's on the reserve, but Joel had, that's what the fund balance was.
No, not.
I would leave that alone. I would leave the truck reserve alone. I'd just take it from the TNC. I think we have, what, over 100 in the TNC?
If the truck reserve was funded and used, then you could utilize that out of your budget if you wanted to.
Were you saying this year, that's the fund balance, that's the answer I gave?
If it wasn't, it's funded and not used. So if it's not used,
Do we know the answer?
I don't think we put in any money for the truck reserve this year in the budget because it had 20,000 and we had not tapped into it in a while. I think we left it flat.
But could we use that 20,000, things that we're saying, to help offset?
Yeah, I'll just pull it up in a second, I'm sorry.
I would leave that alone, because eventually you're gonna need another truck.
let somebody finish the question before we say no, so.
I think it's a good idea. Use it.
So we wouldn't, it seems like we could fund this from the equipment leasing fund and from TNC fully, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to get cute about it.
Just a point of clarification,
Yes,
in
Bob.
your proposal, you explored the scopes of work that we have listed here. Does this machine also have put in the docks?
This will help.
Okay, just want to clarify because that wasn't on there. I just thought it would. So I just-
Yeah, in the past, we brought in a larger piece of equipment and kept the docks whole. The proposal would be to separate the docks and put them in safely as.
Okay.
You
separate
could get
units.
forks for it too, so.
Yes,
All right, I think this sounds like a no-brainer, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Any recusals? Any
Hey, Nick,
abstentions?
this thing has a bucket.
Oh, hang on.
Okay.
Hearing none, that motion passes. Joe, go ahead.
So Nick, this has a bulldozer front and a scoop on the back, I guess?
correct.
Good, perfect.
Okay, let's go. East Tech Security Systems Billing and AP update.
Okay, so, as you recall, at the last meeting, we reported on East Tech, and their aged billing that was presented to us. We went through a significant amount of the billing, and paid a number of those invoices. There are a few items that are still outstanding that we are waiting for manufacturer warranty items to be reposed on before we pay, and they're set aside. We also asked East Tech to review and remove charges related to the door locks. So there were, charges on the invoices for the door locks, each access point where we swipe a card, since the inception of the system had also, charges for being able to utilize cell phone, swiping. And, apparently we were not aware of that, and I guess East Tech was not aware of that. So we've asked Honeywell for credit for those in reverse, and we've told them to stop billing us for that going forward, because that is not a service that we need nor want to utilize. So we're waiting on those to come through as well. We've also advised East Tech that every item of work they need to do needs to be billed timely, and it needs to be approved. And they've agreed to comply with that directive. So we're continuing to work through those items with them. In addition, we've asked East Tech to update and change the passwords and security on all of our camera systems and access points, and they have done that, and we are working through those changes. Earl, yes, sir.
How's the relationship?
Good so far. I think Brian has been helpful, and we're gonna continue working down that path.
And you're pushing back, correct?
Yeah, no, Brian, you know, I think that obviously whenever there is a change in management, you know, you have to establish new relationships, and we're getting there, so.
Okay, what's the total amount that we're looking at right now?
We've paid a significant amount of it. I wanna say the end total was just under 30,000 we were. So that will obviously increase that line item, but we're working with RBT to allocate that in reverse correctly.
Okay.
So this is just correcting, you know.
It's, yeah, catching up on mounted bills.
One thing, can I just add, do you have, and I'm not by any means gonna hold you to this figure, but do you have a figure on, the costs associated with the programming that was done incorrectly?
On which system?
On Honeywell.
On what?
Meaning the cell phone thing just.
Yeah.
Oh, I can break it out for you. It was 27 access points times 15 times 3.5 years, so we can get you that number. I wanna say about, it was, you got it, Earl? 27 times.
Oh, look,
I think 27 times 15 times about 40, I wanna say.
7,400, how many years?
3.5 years,
12.
42 times 42.
Joel?
Can we look into activating that maybe for next year using the cell phones, and so we can get rid of the cards and we don't have to
No,
incur the cost? No?
no.
No,
I'm 1,000% no on
no,
that.
no, love you, Joe, no.
What would that?
Here, I'll give you one second.
I was 37.
15 times 27 times.
Okay.
$17,000,
That's a big piece of that.
for a service. we
Takes that
were
Okay.
Thank you for, doing your controls and checking up on that.
All right, let's go to IT email systems update.
Yes,
Update on the
update, like
update.
that. A little bit of repetitiveness. Okay, so, we are in the process, I know some board members have had a little bit of trouble with their emails lately. And Tom, we were able to get you reestablished, and Dan, you were able to get reestablished with your emails. However, GoDaddy is not the most friendly platform for us to be utilizing for our email purposes. It's also not the easiest one to comply with our document retention policy that the board had instilled last year. I've had a conversation with Patrick about this. I'm bringing it now to the full board, and I'd like to, maybe if we have to ferret it out to the right committee or maybe the board as a whole, I think we want to maybe talk about looking at migrating from GoDaddy, keeping our server in place, keeping our email domain, but maybe looking at a different provider for our emails so that they're kept and housed in one location on a server, so that way when we have to comply with document requests for matters or just making sure that emails are retained in one area, that they're accessible, to management or to the board or to council. That it's a little easier for us to do that. So I had some conversations with a provider who we're not currently using. I'm exploring those options for us, and I think our ultimate goal should be to maybe migrate away from GoDaddy in the near future, because I think it would be helpful, and it might be easier for all you to utilize as well.
All right,
Is
more.
there anyone local?
This is a Ulster County provider that I've done business with in the past. They also provide services to government and law enforcement, and I think that would be helpful for our circumstances.
GoDaddy went to Office 365, correct?
Yes.
Because that's what I use. So-
Yeah, I mean, it's either Office 365 or Google are your two main, providers. Earl, do you have a question? I'm sorry.
So from a government perspective, shit I deal with every day, we probably wanna look at that, Patrick, Lana, and Chris. Because just based off of the things that this board has had to address over the past 4 to 6 weeks, you probably wanna make sure you tag it for penetration testing on a quarterly or annual basis, just to see if someone can get into what we're doing. Google is not gonna provide that because we don't have a FedRAMP certified account.
I know where you're going with that, and I
You
would
think
say
so much?
as well, Beasley, our cyber insurer offers risk management tools.
That's
that,
exactly right, so you know what I'm thinking.
That we can, avail ourselves of, because they do help stress test those systems, and
I just
we'll
think
take them up on that.
when we factor in the responsibility of this board is not to just manage and safeguard our neighbors, but also we have a public utility that we're responsible for, none of us discussed. So we need to put some measures in place that are reflective of that. And bad actors happen every day. Someone is someplace in some small room typing on a laptop to get into something. If we don't put these measures in place and actually use this opportunity as a pivot point or a deflection point, we're setting ourselves up for potential risk. So
Over the last few months, it's just been a whirlwind,
It's a lot.
trying to get things in this association up to date.
Yeah, and that's just another thing, yeah, so more to come on that.
Okay.
Also updating, vending machines.
Anybody hungry? We have them.
Those are.
They're here.
Get a Twix bar while you work at them.
They're here. I guess they're getting pretty good use out there in the lobby. We are receiving, we will receive a 10% commission on the gross sales. And from what I understand, folks are happy with them thus far. There are some options out there, both healthy and not as healthy, but the kids and families seem to like them, and they haven't been a problem yet. So hopefully we stay on that path. So
it's good.
Dan, thank you for bringing that to us to look at and consider, and we'll keep on that path.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, for putting that forward and getting that taken care of. Speaking of other things Dan's put forward, Dan had some ideas at our last meeting for some additional amenities and equipment for the entertainment. One of which was a pool table. That's tab 4 if you're board members.
Board member of the year over here and shit.
Is there any more update on that, guys?
Yeah, we have a code there.
Yeah, the code I think is in the tab there.
Yeah.
I can't pull up my book at the moment. If you wanna- Yeah, I have.
Tab 4.
You got it.
Whoa, just had it.
It's 1319. It's 1319.
I like the pool table Dan came up with. We didn't find any better options than that one, so we stuck with that.
Yeah, from Dick's, the,
It's 1789.
Delivered, right?
Yes, correct.
She's on
Alright.
top of things. We need that. Remember, she looks
Do you
at,
have the board book open?
I'm looking at this, looking at the picture.
You have to look at the quote.
she looks at all the details, not just the.
Yeah.
What's the age that you allow kids into the entertaining now? Well,
13.
The big thing with the pool tables, little kids ripping up the belt, you know, it's gonna happen.
Patrick, Chris, you did that. His concern about.
I'm sorry.
His concern about the pool tables,
Yeah,
kids.
they're on those
Ripping
balls.
up the field, and we let them come in at 13.
Yeah. There's always the potential for anything, and I guess,
I don't know, we can have nice things though, and hopefully they won't.
we got CCTV, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we can only legislate so much. I think it's a good.
It's good for the non-kids to use and do things inside.
Is this going on the second floor?
Is that the idea?
Is what?
Second floor?
Is this going on the second floor?
Well, my original thought was to put it on the lower level, but we could absolutely put it on the second floor.
Okay, couple concerns here. The first floor on the left side, just speaking from like the other events that run in there, like
Cards.
not cards, when we do the trivia nights, that whole entire room is filled and the pool table does not move. I do not agree with putting a pool table on the second floor, just getting it up there. Everybody buys a house with a pool table because you can't move them out of once you set them up. I think having a pool table with all those glass windows around that are already cracked on the second floor is a bad idea. I don't have a problem with having entertainment type things, but I think a ping pong table, foosball would be kind of maybe a little bit of a better option than something that's so permanent that can probably over time, the wear and tear does make I think can degrade the look of the entertainium, just like if you have like cuts in it, and I understand, but then you're getting someone to repair it. I think there are other options to look at, and I'm not in favor of a pool table.
I mean, it's a $1,300 pool table. I don't know that we wanna look at the 10-year experiment with it, but.
No, I just think there are better options, and I think it's kind of short-sighted.
Can it be put in the pool house instead then?
The problem with
There's that room
anything in
up
the
there
pool
that
house is it doesn't have, it's not ADA compliant, the second floor, so I think we run into that problem of what we ran into last time with putting the equipment up there.
What's currently happening on the second floor upstairs ever, anyway?
In the pool house or here?
No, here on the side, can we, so this is kind of a suggestion that I have. I agree with Alana about downstairs because I think like you have the book club people that are in there a lot. But I do think it would be fine to go up on the second floor, but I think that we should keep that door. I don't know if it would be a fire safety thing from the upstairs, you know, the door that goes from the track to in that room, that should stay maybe locked because a lot of kids come in and out. So if there's kids playing in the entertainment, meaning like small children and their parents are also here, sometimes the kids are running like up and down that back set of stairs, up through that door. So I just think that maybe you should try to make the pool table like 18 and over use, maybe in that specific area or something. I don't disagree with having it. I think it's a great idea. I just think you should maybe keep kids away from it, honestly.
Well, if you were to have it downstairs, it would be more available to the kids regardless.
That's what I'm saying. So if you put it upstairs and you shut that one door so that kids can't run in and out. I mean, I know they could still come up from the bottom. And I don't know if it's a fire safety risk.
Put a panic hardware on the door.
So I got a
Earl,
question.
and then Chris.
Then you have two means of egress.
I got a question. What do you think Sector 1 will push back? I know every time you ask them, they to do something extra, they want some money. But the balls are signed out by them. Because I mean, I'm less concerned about the pool sticks. I'm less concerned about the pool sticks. I'm more concerned about
The balls.
balls. I mean, I apologize.
Just power through, man, just keep going, keep going.
And I only say that because at least if Sector 1 is okay with being involved in the sign in and sign out of the balls themselves.
Like an old billiard.
Period. At least there's some track record. Okay, cool. Let me get your card, because you had to get your card to come in here anyway. Let me write your information down. At least somebody sign out and return it. That's the other accountability.
Well, that's how that air hockey thing.
That's an excellent idea, Earl. I think it covers a lot of.
Because I mean, if that happens, then your concern is nipped in the bud. And then we can still do it. It still should be on the second floor. And literally, when those guys leave, if we don't have the pool ticks back in, we don't have the balls back in, I know who to go to get them from. That's the only way you can get Mr. Summer.
Agreed.
Consensus.
They're gonna have to agree to it, and they're not gonna get any more.
I'm going for a board member of the year now.
Okay, no raise for the year. All right, so with that, I'll make a motion to approve I'm sorry, Chris, you did have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. What
what pool of money is this coming from?
Ooh.
Activities, no?
Pool table money.
Ooh.
The events.
Did it come from? them
I thought you would donate
tonight?
them, Chris. I'm just asking the question.
And this is just for the pool table where
It's
you're.
like 17,
Yeah.
right? Alright, so I mean, just
And
asking
the
for the
ball
purpose of the
carrier.
person making the motion, they should indicate which budget line this is coming.
Events.
Now, go ahead.
Nope. No, it's a fair clarification. So coming from the events budget, okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Can I just ask if we can also make an amendment to the motion to include, I don't know what the dollar amount's gonna be yet, but an investment in, they make a lift for pool tables. I don't know what the cost is, but they do make a lift,
So you can move it.
so we can move the pool table. There is it's a cart that goes under the table, you step down on it, and you can then literally move the pool table around the room. Not for the kids to move it, but so staff can move this pool table.
How about you just call myself and Earl and we'll move.
You know, man, I'd get my nails done. That's not happening over here.
It's a cart, I mean, we probably can look one up, but they're
Why don't we-
a couple $100. Do you want me to come back
I
for?
think we should come back, because it's gonna be, that's money, that's
Okay.
new money.
Yeah, it's in the several $100 range, I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, so. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recusals, abstentions, hearing none, all right, pool table passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're not done yet, Dan. We next have,
Rolling, Dan.
Exercise equipment.
Yeah.
additional exercise equipment. We did take this by, an email vote, which passed, my count was 6. So confirming, that, but just wanted to know if anybody has any, comments you want to make, board members, comments you want to make with regard to the exercise, the additional exercise equipment.
So, just to recap,
Yeah.
for the homeowners that are here, so this would be an additional lease, we're adding in a stair mill, for a piece of additional cardio equipment for the weight room. We're adding in an additional treadmill. And those would be under the lease, and also a, back extension and ab crunch, machine. Those would be under an additional lease.
Are you moving any stuff out of that space
We'll
to
have to.
accommodate these things?
I can
'Cause
reconfigure. You
Yeah.
have to.
So
Not gonna all fit.
the stair mill would likely fit where the, I can't remember the name of the air machine,
Yes.
You mean the Roman chair thing?
no, the air, the purifier,
Oh,
and we would move that over.
okay.
So you would get in a stair mill, treadmill, back extension, and what else?
That's it. 3 machines.
3 machines.
The back extension and ab crunch machine is,
One of the things, yeah.
Can I ask, we had previously spoken with the prior management about engaging Advantage, the same vendor, on a service contract to maintain the equipment, particularly the cardio equipment, which and particularly treadmills, which get significant wear and tear by the end of their leasing life. Can I ask you, Nick, to clarify whether we ever entered into that agreement for service, and if not, can you bring that back to us next month so that we can approve service, because their cardio equipment really does need. It was like $3,000 or so a year, $2 to $3,000.
once we formalize the equipment lease. There was another point I wanted to make, but if we're cemented on moving forward with this, do we need another motion to vote, or we just?
We're just recapping. Yeah, we did it by email vote.
The other thing I wanted us to take a look at, is as the lease terminates for some of the equipment that's been very lax in use, not to renew, like some of the bikes we really don't need. And that'll, garner additional space.
When are those lease terms up?
4 years. All the cardio, we approved last year to renew the cardio equipment lease, the strength equipment lease is coming to a conclusion. We could potentially work with Advantage to try and get them to take back some of the equipment. To your point about moving space, and see if they would cut us a break on the initial lease, but I agree with you. And I think you still have a pretty long life left on the lease for the cardio equipment that is not being used. So if we could work with Advantage to maybe cut us a break, given that we are spending a lot of money with them.
And
Yeah, like, can they shorten the term of the current things that we don't like, so
we're
we don't have to
already,
pay?
we're already in a contract.
No, I
Yeah,
know,
we
but
can
as
figure it
part
out.
of purchasing this and this quote, can you get something added on to say, since we're gonna be spending this extra money
We'll
and we
leverage.
need to make space for this new equipment to come in, can you cut these other things short?
It's new money for them, so
It's,
they should be willing to.
it's a possibility, you always want to use whatever leverage you
Yeah.
can get. So I
I mean,
guess
I
what
would
I'm saying
just
is,
try.
if that's possible, that would be great. If it's not possible, and we absolutely have to start making space, this equipment isn't gonna put us in a spot where we don't have enough space, but we have the ability to use the pool for some of the additional bikes that are not getting a lot of use.
Joel, your hand's up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I just want to not forget, that, I want to talk about, we keep revisiting this as a board as a whole, and I think it should be put out to a committee. Somebody mentioned that in one of our emails, and I had an idea about that, but Joel, go ahead.
So on the crunch machine, things that are not electronic, instead of leasing it, maybe we could just buy it out right now, because the lease is gonna be at 7% interest. We're only making 3 or 4% on our money.
The lease
So
is-
it's safe.
The lease is structured to be favorable to purchase at the end of the lease. It's a
Okay.
lease, it's a lease that's designed to incentivize purchase, particularly for the strength equipment. We looked at that when we originally leased the equipment.
There's no benefit.
All right, so my idea was we have a pool committee, was to sort of expand that committee's remit to include, dealing with issues, about the amenities, like, do we have the right equipment, exercise equipment, all that sort of stuff. I think that's logically where those issues belong in the committee sense. So is everybody good with that? Rather than forming another standing committee.
You would name it pool and amenities.
Sure.
Something like that, sure.
And then, Dan, if you wanted to, I don't know if you're on the pool committee or not, frankly, but if you wanted to.
Love the help, Dan. Love the help. Love the help.
Put my name on the list.
All right,
Okay.
thanks for volunteering.
Cool.
Okay,
I will report back on. Thank you.
all right, so, let's move on. There's, a proposal Nick sourced for mirrors in the weight and exercise room. That's tab 6 of your board book.
And this was something that was already approved when we were.
Yeah, this had nothing to do
Oh,
with Nick.
it was in that budget, right?
Yes.
Alright, so it's not new money.
We just never actually did the work.
Okay,
Right, so we did get quotes from both a local vendor and a national vendor. The national vendor was substantially less expensive. We did go back to the local vendor and ask
Why?
if they could sharpen their pencil, and unfortunately they could not. The only question, I think, Dan, really was just the location. We had recommended the back alcove there, kind of where the freeway area was, to establish a freeway area. And I think the photograph is in your board books there to just kind of memorialize that. That's our recommendation. So if anybody has any questions, comments, or suggestions on that, that would be helpful, and we can pull the
So
trigger.
are
on
you
that.
gonna be moving the freeways over to that area, or what are you doing?
Yeah, the goal would be to install at least the 2 mirrors in that area, and then kind of make that the freeway area.
I thought we were talking about putting the mirrors on that wall and the opposing wall.
Again, it's totally up to the direction of the board.
And then what are you gonna do with these 2 pieces?
No, they can stay there, but you have to move, you have to,
Put the glass up.
Yeah.
Move them back.
so the proposal, that we're seeing for the 96.
Does not make sense from a gym perspective. Does it to you? I mean. you
if it's
work out,
if it's
right?
gonna block it, I get what you're
There's
saying.
no
that-
point in putting mirrors if there's fucking equipment in front of it, excuse my language.
I'm hearing what you're saying.
Unless you're doing the weights there, which is the whole point of where mirrors go in the gym, because people who are wanting to use mirrors in a gym are checking their form when they're lifting weights, not when they're
But
on the bike, the row machine or this
there's
machine.
a lot of body weight exercises that people do over there, so that was my.
May I suggest that, given the discussion between the 2 of you, that there's probably broader differences of opinion among fitness centers, just sort of piggyback on Patrick's previous suggestion. maybe this needs a little bit more discussion.
Right.
Before we approve the.
I'm happy to go walk
Well,
over
it
there when
was
we're done.
already approved, right?
just
So I'm
approved.
not saying to not approve
The
it, I'm
purchase,
just
the
saying,
purchase
like,
is
yeah.
approved, we just have to locate them, so I'm happy to go when we're done.
I got a little off track, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm happy when we're done to go
Really
walk.
sorry about that.
Since you and Dan, like probably more than anybody else here utilize it, we can walk over there when we're done
No,
today.
I don't care what you do, it's just like, we're adding a lot of stuff and we're not really, like, to me, it doesn't seem like we're really thinking about like what we already have, the flow of things, all that kind of stuff, so I don't like spending money before we like take care of what we already have and make it appropriate first. It just doesn't logically make a lot of sense to
Typically, the
me.
mirrors would be on every wall in a normal fitness.
Right, so watch out for the,
Okay.
pool and amenities
Yes,
committee,
I'll
meeting
line.
email.
Yeah,
You
there you
announce
go.
when that
Y'all
committee
working out
starts.
this come
Okay.
back. Yeah, y'all working out come back.
So the outcome is we have 2 new committee members.
See how that works? I can't wait, that's gonna. be
All right, let's
fire.
move on. Nick, is there anything else? I thought you had one other.
There is one thing, and I apologize, this literally came this morning from Brad from B&B Electric. Not a bill, a proposal.
Another bill.
It actually is a proposal to run the electric for the hot water heaters for one of the amenities here in the entertainment that we cannot utilize unless you like cold showers. And this is to install a 30 amp, 240 volt circuit. So we can install a heat pump hot water heater, so you can have hot water in the bathroom, so you could take a shower if you chose after you used our lovely gym.
Or you could wash your hands appropriately and actually get the germs out.
Correct.
I apologize, this was something else I asked about a while back.
So I actually discovered this in a conversation with Joel, about the fact we didn't have hot water. And then I went and tested it out for myself. So, Brad, from B&B Electric gave us a proposal. I did not go out and shop this because Brad did most of the electric here in this building and does most of the electric on the site. And I would like someone that knows the wiring here, because of continuity to do this work. $1,600 to run the service from the panel to that room. About, the water heater.
Actually, a lot less than I was anticipating.
About the water heater, I'm proposing that we would utilize a, either an A.O. Smith or a Rheem, smart, heat pump water heater, 80 gallons in that room. Basically, that's probably sized appropriately if someone or if 2 people were taking showers at the same time or washing their hands, doing what they need to do. Cost of that, all in with, a storage, not storage tank, a pressure tank, because we need a pressure tank on it, installed by us, not by a plumber, by us. When I say us, I mean myself and Junior, because I actually know how to do this stuff, and I would like to teach Junior how to do some of this work. Take us an afternoon, 4 hours probably, all in. $3,500. So we're looking about a total of $5,100 to be in the taking shower business here in the entertaining.
200 total is the.
Total,
I'm,
electric and water heater.
I'm less concerned about the shower. The fact that we don't have the ability to wash hands. I mean, I have sanitizer, that's just hygiene, that's just good hygiene, so I defer to you, Patrick, Chris, but we need to do something.
What bucket of money is this coming?
I would I think we still have a bucket of construction money.
So from the assessment.
Yeah.
Beverly's ready to take care of the mirror thing.
Wait, there was like 3 comments at once.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Dan,
Guys, we put the mirrors in the shower.
Alana, you have a question?
My office is the same as Joel's, I don't think we have money, so we just,
So it is assessment money.
I don't think we have access.
So Joel, from a money perspective, if this is something that the board wants to do, where can we get the money from, sir?
That's a
I would
capital.
think it would come out of the capital that we raise every year, the 50,000. Come out of
All
that.
right.
It's capital reserve.
Yeah, you're on the same page with our illustrious attorney, so.
Okay. So so the motion is to approve $5,100. I'm sorry, what would be a motion?
I'll put the motion on. Chris is in the zone today. I'll put the motion on the table. I put the motion on the table that we approve the request for $5,100 for electric, work that needs to be done and the water pump for.
What was the cost of the water heater again?
35.
I'm saying 35 all in, Dan, with pressure tank, associated plumbing, your Home Depot cost on the water heater is like 2,500 before tax.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
The motion.
I did.
Okay, having been motioned and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, it passes.
That's it for my report.
Okay.
I just note out loud that for the bylaws, we're limited to $10,000 in expenditures off the capital reserve per fiscal year. So this is a valid expenditure, but we just need to keep that in mind next time we discuss some one-off expenditure. We need to think about kind of staying in the line and stuff.
If we do this, we have $4,900 given to us.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's move on. He's gonna get that one way or another.
Yeah, you guys, I mean.
We gotta be able.
Put it on the second floor.
Anyway, Marvin, would you use it?
Okay. Going on to board governance, let's first talk about our email voting, of course, I think it raises a fair point that we should set some parameters and guidelines around that. We've used that not all the time, but we've used it. Certainly there are emergency situations, like, for example, I recall we needed to vote to approve our insurance renewal when there was a deadline or something like that. But I think perhaps we've taken it a little too far, perhaps. I guess, I don't know, Chris, do you have thoughts on the parameters we should all agree to?
Yeah, I think I raised this question over an email vote during this past cycle, but I also have used email voting, so this is not a blame game at all. I think we really owe it to the members to have public discussion of items, and I think there's been several email votes where members had opinions that deserved open discussion, and were that was sort of preempted by the email vote. So my proposal, sort of thinking correctly, I'm happy to have this debate a little bit. But my proposal is that we should never do an email vote over any kind of new spending, particularly spending that's not covered in the current budget and never from the TNC. In other words, that if we're going to spend money that's not allocated in the current budget, that needs to either be the subject of a special meeting or to be covered in open session, as we owe the members to do that. So things that I envision would be still or any kind of policy changes, including variances for homeowner requests, that deserves to be discussed item in a meeting. So I think things that I envision that would still be fine for email votes would be renewing existing agreements or continuing with precedent. So renewing insurance agreements that are simply kind of moving forward. Expenditures that we approve every year that aren't changing, like the fireworks, right? These are always budgeted. If they're the same cost and we've approved them in the past. And any kind of pro forma procedural thing like paperwork. For example, when we approved Nick's access to finances when we onboarded him, and things like member communications where there's a time sensitive thing, right? We put a press release out and people can comment and we can go forward with that. And then the other thing I think we should have is that, I'm willing to talk about the number, but I think there should be a bailout clause that if at least two members respond to an email chain and ask for the item to be moved to a discussion in an open meeting, that vote should be tabled at that moment and should be moved to a special meeting or to a vote. In other words, if you get yourself and a buddy to say, this isn't right, this should be discussed, there's different opinions, then that immediately has to be trigger a schedule.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good fail safe.
Can I just add to that? If we're gonna do this, perhaps maybe what we should do is each motion to do whatever you're saying, whether it's spend new money or whatever, should have two motions applied to it. The first motion should be whether or not the board agrees to bring this to a motion, email or electronically. So if all of the board members agree that this is a situation where, or a quorum agree that this is a situation where we should do an electronic vote, then it meets the threshold. And then if it doesn't, then we know that this is something that has to be brought to the.
I actually,
And that would probably settle the majority of whatever.
I think it's an unnecessary extra step.
I would say maybe
I don't think
if
it's.
you put a 24 hour kind of time limit on a meeting, right? If two board members respond within 24 hours to say, I call foul, I'd like to move this to a discussion, I think that solves the problem in the same way.
yeah, I think either or, I would suggest move away from the financial implications. I think that's a fair point, but you know, there are issues that we might need to address that doesn't fall within that parameter, that still needs to have that litmus test. So I completely agree. I just don't think this should be constrained to decisions that are made within the current budget. Okay, what if a decision comes up that needs to be addressed that's outside of just a budgetary conversation?
We can have an emergency meeting.
So I think,
Yeah.
It should be an emergency.
yeah,
That's
Is that what you wanna do emails for?
yeah, I think it should just be in the definition of emergency. I think we should
Emergency
need
might
to.
be a big number too.
I don't envision me calling for any more emails, but.
Yeah.
Usually what we do, I mean,
There's always
the
the
easy email votes are
Yeah.
the ones that are just pro forma votes, right? That there's some paperwork that needs to get accomplished, it requires a board vote. These are not things we typically debate at a meeting and are in keeping with past precedent, right? That stuff, nobody cares about that, and that doesn't require public discussion. But if we're spending money, the default should be that it's discussed in open session.
Yeah, completely agree. I completely agree.
Or
I
at
think,
least you call your meeting into order and then go into executive session.
Right, that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
depending on the nature of the expenditure, sure.
Because the bylaws provide now for one third of the board can call a special meeting
Mhm.
at any time.
Right.
I think the bottom line is this was just one of those, hey, we're letting ours slip in a little bit. You need to probably tighten up a little bit. And I think that's across the board. Patrick's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, and to put a name to this, this arose because I called for an email vote on, the additional exercise equipment that we confirmed, a few moments ago. The reason I did that, was because there's lead time in ordering that equipment, so I just wanted to get, management on it, but.
Happened.
But none of them,
Yeah, but not the spending piece. I mean, it's a fair call out. You know, that's just for the members and the folks on the Zoom, that's where this came from. That's, what we're really talking about. But I think it's a fair point that, you know, that we could have waited on that.
To be clear, I think everybody has good intentions here, like, I'm not calling, and I think that what I envision this is that, like, I should be able to ask for an email vote in the way that any other board member should be able to ask for an email vote. It establishes a common set of rules for fair play, right? So like, if, it shouldn't just be like, gives us kind of fair rules of the game for everybody. That's my.
I haven't, listen,
Yeah.
to me, it's. I'm just saying, if you meet if you put a formal motion up, does this meet the threshold? Are members willing to vote electronically on this? If you get a quorum on that, then you should be able to get your quorum on your vote.
Yeah, I think you're both right. You're
That's
both right. You're spot on.
So I motion that we,
Do we need a formal vote on this?
Nah, we just need to tighten up.
It's
that's
just
all.
really kind of like a policy.
Yeah, we.
I'm actually gonna put a motion. I motion that if any two board members object to an email vote, that vote must be tabled and moved to a special meeting or an open session.
Okay,
That's
I'll
all.
second that. All in favor on that? Aye. Any opposed? Any recusals, any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, we're moving on?
Please.
Okay, next up, I emailed all the board members, you'll see this at tab 7. I offered an amendment of the bylaws of the EGLLM Water Company. Let me just, before I introduce that item, I want to note that 3 of the board members of EGLLM told me this morning that they are stepping off the board. So they have served for many, many years and have done so much work. Chris Douglas, Bob Ernst, and Alan Shantz. Really want to thank you guys for all your service, all the hard work. And, you know, not the least of which is the recent rate case that we'll hear about in a few moments that was approved. So that was good to see that all shepherded through. So thank you guys for that. Even with that news. I still want to put these amendments forward. And I explained some of my reasoning, I think, in my covering email, but just for the whole membership. Currently, the bylaws of the water company were amended in March of 2021 to provide that those board members would have 3-year terms, but could be removed only for cause. And I get why those amendments were made at the time. Entrenchment's not a bad word. It's a sort of legal term. It means that it added protections for the board members at that time. And so several of those board terms have really since expired. Again, sort of a moot point, but I think the 3-year term makes a lot of sense. But what I think I want to see in those bylaws is more direct control by the EGPOA board for the reason that it's our wholly owned subsidiary. We have encountered recently some situations where we needed to exert direct control, and in my estimation, it was a little hard to do that. And I think that it's in fairness to what the water company board really should be, in my view, as a wholly owned subsidiary, it should reflect the will and the thinking of the EGPOA board of its parent company. And so that's how many corporate boards, operate with their subsidiaries. They have the discretion to appoint or remove those board members. Yes, it opens it up to, games of politics, but I certainly don't think anybody on this current board would engage in that. But at the end of the day, that's, in my view, the members elect us, and then we're appointing those board members. So it should reflect whatever the collective thinking is, the consensus of the EGPOA board at that time. And that's why I'm proposing these. And I'm happy to summarize the amendments for folks before, and I'll recognize you first, Dan, but I just want to quickly summarize what exactly I'm proposing. So first would be to create I love the 3-year terms because you gain that continuity, you gain that institutional knowledge, you keep that there. But I would create staggered terms for those directors. And I would have these amendments take effect June 1st, which gives us time to run an open application process, open to the community, open even to Lake Louise Marie, folks, if they wanted to apply. I'm not saying, what our board would do or who we would appoint, but I think in terms of transparency and fairness, I'd like to see an open process like we did when Zach was eventually appointed. We took applications from folks who were interested, and also the current board members or anybody who wishes to reapply could do so. And then the amendment would make clear that the EGLLM director serves the pleasure of EGPOA and may be removed by majority vote from our board. Again, that's removing the for cause element. It also add a provision that a 2/3 EGLLM board vote would be needed and then confirmed by our board by a majority for entering into any management company contracts. But also, there's just a couple of other things like modernizing the telephone meeting option to include video conference, which is something that our bylaws allow. And just clearing up one provision that I thought was a little unclear in terms of the minimum number of directors needed for quorum, which would need to be 3. That's just to prevent a small control group from making a decision. So I think Zach's gonna have questions perhaps.
A little less than not, I'll let Dan come.
Okay, great. So I'm done with my part. Dan, recognize you.
I like the idea. I might think that we want to add like a potential conflict of interest clause. For instance, obviously whoever the founders of the bylaws are will just say whatever. They set up 2 different boards for a specific reason. I worry that the appointments could become self-harm where you have 3, 4, 5 officers on the POA side that could potentially appoint themselves to the water company. And at that point, the officers would have oversight of the exclusive rights to the board of the POA and then exclusive to the water company. So I'm saying that perhaps we should amend it to
Limit.
Limit the type of board members.
Rule.
Yeah, maybe we want one officer, or we don't wanna have all officers go to the water company or vice versa. Cause I just worry that that would become a conflict of interest.
Right, let's just clarify. Like,
I'm not saying this board would do that. I'm
that's,
saying maybe perhaps,
that's very much not the intention.
no, I'm saying if we're doing this now, maybe we put that into it to cover.
Anybody who gets appointed to the water company board has to be approved by a majority of this board member,
Yeah.
so officers couldn't just like sort of self-appoint, is that?
I
what you-
just worry that we get to the point where maybe the only people that wanna volunteer for the water company
Mhm.
are potentially officers, and now you get to a position where it's.
He has a fair point. He has a very fair point.
What is the point? I'm.
Dual roles, Marvin, I think he's saying he's concerned about.
I don't wanna even
Leadership
start
roles.
saying what I'm worried about, I just wanna say, let's put protection in place.
I created this water company and wrote the bylaws and put in, we own the water company. And all these amendments are fine. They're clarifying it. There's absolutely no problem with anything that Patrick has proposed. If you don't like the way the water company is being run, this board can get rid of directors and just do it. I don't understand what the.
Well, because if you have an officer in position on the water company, it creates a conflict.
Dan, you're worried about a click running both boards, right? That's
Huh?
just, you're in plain language, you're worried about a click running both boards at the same time, is that just in plain
Yeah,
language?
just, why not just make it balanced, you know, if let's just say Patrick was moved to the water company.
Who should be on your, talk about who should be on your water company board. It should be people from this board.
So,
You can have people who aren't or are members of Emerald Green.
But then there would be a need to have.
Outside users though, like Lakewood and Marie, you have Chrome and the highway.
You wouldn't necessarily need to have two boards there.
But you're in control, if you don't like the way it is, this board can just remove them, it's without clause, that they serve at the pleasure. I just don't know how you write a conflict to say, I just don't understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying that we should possibly look into having a policy or an amendment to Patrick's idea that if we're gonna have appointments, that the officer is not overseen.
All right.
Go that far.
I'm
just.
let's, I'm gonna, there are a number of folks with hands up, hang on one second, I'm just gonna say to Dan, if you wanna collect those thoughts and figure out exactly what amendment you wanna propose, let's do that as people are speaking, so I'm gonna go.
Let her go.
Okay, so Leslie, then Joel,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Get the lady.
All right, I'll go after them.
yeah. Beverly, and then Joel, and then Earl, then Leslie.
So like you said that 3 of the current board members resigned.
Correct.
So they're gonna be, not serving anymore. So whatever current members you have left, instead of having them reapply during this open process, you might consider leaving them in their terms and just starting immediate staggering for those people instead of having them
I think that's
apply.
ultimately what we would do, yeah, I would
Okay,
think,
that would
assuming
be
they
my
still
only
wanna serve, I'm not
concern
gonna.
Out of all of this, like, it seems kind of like, to make them have to, I mean, I don't know, I would just move them into whatever staggered terms instead of forcing them to
So
reapply.
what I would say is if we adopt these, then immediately appoint Alex and Zach, assuming again. they
Right,
wanna do
yeah,
that,
correct,
to, you know. to
correct,
one
and
of
then
these.
if you want them to be staggered, put them wherever you, I mean.
Yeah, right.
at their will, but.
Patrick, let me just say, if you, we only have 2 board members now.
Right.
You should appoint a 3rd one, because
We can't make any
you
decisions.
really gotta, if something comes up before you.
Can't do
Five in, you ought to have a functioning water company. with
Yeah.
3 directors.
That obviously
We
isn't
have a
something, I
resignation
mean,
date.
June 1st.
wait,
Huh?
so hang on,
So I think Bob is staying on at least, right? You're gonna. So
Sorry?
you're staying, you're not, it's not effective today, is it, or is it?
No, it's effective today, but as
yeah,
I
it's
said,
effective immediately,
as I mentioned.
You
I
can't-
don't know, we have a board, 2 board members.
right, so,
I-
that's a problem we'll grapple with.
Hey, can we go on Bob was trying?
Sorry,
I have no problem taking any new board member and introduce them into the financial section and so forth to the people we're dealing with. Okay, and basically that's it. The only comment I would make is on the staggered list. it's gonna take a year, 2 years for a person that's gonna be out within a year, they even get caught up in what's going on. An example, we've got the tower, the tank that we have to build. We've been working on that for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, and now with the rate case completed, which took over 3 years to get done. With that completed now, the tank is gonna be a primary thing. So people will have to get caught up with what's going on there. So I'm just saying that you might wanna consider that you don't want 1 year, say 2 or 3 to 4 year term. And let the person who's in that decide if they wanna stay. But anybody that does take the job, they're gonna have to do some homework and get caught up on what's taking place. Now, Nick is new with it, but he does have experience in it, but he's a temporary at this point. I have no idea what the board is gonna decide going forward based on your comment. If you're gonna go for an outside provider, like we had J&J has made a proposal, but the Public Service Commission has told us they would like the company split. Based on your memo and your comments today, is you're talking about, yes, the homeowners association does own the water company, but it never have we ever had the water company or the homeowners board really own and operate the water company. It was always basically independent, even though we had commingled employees, et cetera. So you have to look at that, and then you have the Department of Health that's requiring us to do certain things as well. So anybody that's taking us over is gonna have to do a lot of homework real quick, because some of these things are being mandated to us to do right now.
Right.
Nick has talked to the fellow that we've dealt with. He does have some connections with people on the board up there. But those board members just say yes. The people at work you work with on a daily basis are the ones that put it all together to give to the board to approval. So, like I said, Alan and myself, and I know, we would be more than happy to introduce anybody if they don't know, like the lender and so forth that we have. We have a letter for $1,700,000 plus a $300,000 line of unsecured credit. We do not have to encumber the homeowners association as a guarantor. They don't want that, so.
So you're willing to support the function and role of the new members on a volunteer basis, like you wanna help get us up this.
I just wanna make the introduction.
Okay.
One of the reasons is, I've been on the water company board since 2010. I've served on a homeowners association board. I got involved with it, and Marvin will tell you, we got involved with it when we were building a dam. We had all the stuff set up on an annual basis where it was an automatic increase. We lost that because the homeowners association decided they didn't want to have the homeowners pay any more money because of the cost of the dam. So we lost 10 years of automatic increases. We haven't had an increase since 1994, 95. Okay, and then you had COVID, and here we stand. Now, we do have an excellent increase, and I don't envy you people. You're gonna get a lot of calls when you see 36.8% increase in the water company bill.
I personally want to thank you for your time on the board, Bob.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, we all do. I wanna gain control. So I'm gonna recognize Joel.
So on the term limits, like on our board, you can't run more than 2 3-year terms. Will that same thing apply? So even if someone has a 1-year term, they can
That's not
still
part of the
apply.
proposal.
Okay, good.
Term
I'm just
limits are not part
clarifying.
of it.
Okay, and then on the other part, as far as like approving major contracts and things like the loans and things like that, do we still have to approve that? Do we have to approve that before they actually execute these documents type of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yes.
it.
Earl? What?
Let Leslie.
Well, okay. Leslie, no,
Yeah, I know that, you have been on the board for many years. I totally agree with Dan as well, because before we had the president of the board of Emerald Green, and he was also the president of the board of the water company. And that created a conflict of interest. And, I would like to see that. Just, for transparency reasons, of course, and also I agree with Patrick that perhaps people from, Lake Louise Marie should be involved in the water company since they pay, water in our, call it whatever, district water company. One thing that I wanted to ask was, who else helped you with this, amendments for the bylaws and the,
No one,
water? No one?
no.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good. I like it. I like that, the 5 members and be staggered. That's a good idea, for continuity and.
We need structure.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
Beverly, then Earl.
No, I'm done.
You're good.
Yeah,
Earl?
you stay on, get back there.
All right, so my only would ask Patrick would be for the board to consider. I have 2 concerns. One, the 1.5 years is exactly my thought as well. That maybe there's a 2.5, 3.5, and a 4.5, just considering there's so much done.
Yeah.
That has to be done. And that the directors get removed from a 1.5 year term to a 2.5, 3.5, or 4.5 year term. I think the only other thing that I would ask is, and this is something that had been mentioned to the prior management, but I also think Nick brought this in without us requesting, is that there's no status report. There's no consistent reporting of activities that's going on a monthly basis. This is agnostic against the finances, but because there are projects, there are activities, there's construction, there's issues that are going on there. The management, whomever that management is, needs to provide some insight or window into activities on a
I
monthly
think
basis.
that's a fair
And
point.
that
You make
is-
that as a corporate policy
Correct.
versus putting that in the
Correct,
bylaw.
correct, correct. And I only say that because there's so much churn going on in Emerald Green, but the one thing that we cannot take our eye off, we gotta get this water tower shit done.
Yeah.
And no one
So
knows where it
that's-
sits.
So then I'm just gonna step in this, that's my main concern is all the stuff that we have going on with the lenders, the shareholders. Can we even do any of these amendments without, we have to notify them, so if we.
No. I'm sorry, but this board can amend the bylaws of the water company right here. We gave notice. You don't have to give notice to the users or anything. This is Emerald Green, EGPOA's company. So they can amend the bylaws, and what he's proposed is fine. I would just make one comment. I wouldn't even bother talking about term limits. Anyone who's gonna serve is gonna serve at the pleasure of the board. They can be removed in a month if you don't like them, so it really doesn't make too much difference if you're there for a year and a half or 2.5. You don't have a right to that. You're serving at the pleasure. So you can have, it doesn't matter so much unless you want longevity. But go ahead.
Before you do that, I think that's a fair point, but I think from a perspective, for the folks who live here that may not be looking under the cover and seeing all those granular details, to just put that structure in place, there's a perception, there's objectivity. The only other thing I wanna say and last, we just mentioned that we should extend this to the Lake Louise Marie. I personally think we need to extend it to any person who is a recipient of water. You have business owners who actually receive water from this organization. You have the Discovery Center. If we're looking to get a diverse group of persons that sit on the Lake Marie's board, we need to get a diverse group of persons.
So.
No,
I
they
don't-
still gotta get approved.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There's nothing in the proposed amendments that prevents that at all.
Can I just talk about the term limits?
Sorry.
Good.
Yeah, that was it.
So, hearing good suggestions to amend the proposal as written, I'm going to motion to approve the proposal as written, not to quash discussion, but to structure discussions and invite amendments to the draft proposal. So I propose to approve the proposal as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I would like to make a proposal, a motion to appoint Dan to the water company board.
Let's hold that piece till after we get through the
Okay.
amendments.
Right now, there's just a motion to amend the bylaws of the Emerald Green Lake Louise Marie Water Company as Patrick gave in the email and presented here today. That's-
Yeah, hold on.
Honestly, it's not opposition to the proposal, it's just let's work through the motion.
Yes,
Okay,
So
so,
who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I made it and Joel seconded it.
okay, so, Dan, I know you wanted to structure something of you.
Yeah, so
How do you wanna make-
about the appointments or the, not the appointments, the terms. I think the reason why you wanna have terms in place is because whoever's.
Have terms, I'm just saying, don't make a big deal with the running.
I got you, but
That's
the
only.
whole point in having those in place is because if Beverly volunteers for the water company, she may decide at some point, you know what, maybe I'm not gonna pursue this anymore, and she doesn't wanna necessarily resign, because it's not a good look, but she wants to run her term and then.
The way
Let it-
you propose it seems fine to me, 1.5, 2.5, 3.
Yeah, that was,
And
that
that's,
was.
by the way, those are just to get initial staggering, that's just a one-time thing, the 1.5, whatever. Then after that, everybody gets 3 years from
Yeah,
whatever that next.
I'm fully on board with that. The only thing I would like to add is a duality or a conflict of interest policy to where we cannot appoint more than 66% or 2/3 of the officers to the or to the water company.
Officers or members?
Officers
So
specifically.
no more than, is it no more than?
And the
two?
reason being is not because the officers that we have here, I think, are gonna do dual roles, but for instance, when you have exclusive authority to the POA, we're understanding that there's two different layers to the board of directors on the POA, right?
Right.
So sometimes you have
Yeah, I got you.
that, and I don't wanna
So can I
let that commingle.
put the amendment in words for you? And then I
Got
don't, so, motioning that, no more than two, officers of the POA board, may serve concurrently as members of the water company board.
I agree.
Great,
At any time.
great.
Is that the motion that you wanted to make?
Yeah.
And so just to
I'll make that
clarify-
motion right now. As-
No, I'll second it.
So just to clarify, so if a current I don't wanna get water. If a current, so if a current officer was appointed, they could step off as they could step down as an officer on the POA board and serve as a.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
okay.
that's what they
I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
We may be solving a problem that doesn't actually exist, but that's fine, I agree with it, and I second it.
Put down the road.
So, want to recognize Marvin and then Bob.
I just wanna make a
Okay,
comment.
let's move on.
One meeting.
Go ahead, Bob.
What I wanted to say is, I think it'd be a mistake to have anybody from the Lake Louise Marine people on the water board. I'll tell you why. Marvin and I go back on this a long time ago, or any outsiders. We own the water company as homeowners association. That's our company. We have to supply Lake Louise Marine people a minimum, not a minimum, up to 800,000 gallons of water a day. That was provided in the contract when we acquired the water company. What year was that, Marvin?
I think it's like early 2000.
Yeah.
So it's 99.
So,
Well, it's close.
and that was part of the deal. We bought each one of the lakes for $1 a lake.
I think that this would,
They're all foreclosed on the water. So we bought the water company, and I'll tell you why, because I wanted to buy the water company from the bank that were foreclosing on it. And myself and a few other people. They recommended to go to the homeowners association at that point in time. And I suggested to the homeowners at that time, you'd be damn fools not to buy the water company, which you did. Buy it, and we got knocked out of it. But there's a contract that we have to supply the Lake Louise Marine people. You think they're gonna come and say, when we have to go a rate, so forth, they're gonna approve that?
So I'll jump in on this.
No way.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think the Lake Louise Marine Board, because it provides water for damn near all of Rock Hill, I shouldn't have to be a member or a resident of Emerald Green
So
to
guys,
participate.
sorry to cut you off, those are issues that aren't part of this proposal right now. We'll eventually get to the point where.
I appreciate your experience, Bob, and I think that this board will
Yeah, we're gonna have an open
listening
process,
on your experience
absolutely.
over time.
But I wanna deal with, so we've got a motion to amend, has been made, I seconded it. I'm gonna call a question on that. All in favor of Dan's amendment?
Aye.
Can we do a roll call? No.
Roll call having been requested, okay. This is on the motion to amend,
All right, Patrick.
yes.
Alana,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes,
thank you. I vote yes. Zach,
No.
Alex,
Nope.
Bev,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Leslie,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Earl.
Yes, sir.
Motion to amend passes.
Okay, now on the main question, having been made and seconded,
Ask for a roll call vote.
a roll call having been requested. Go ahead.
Patrick,
Yes.
Alana,
Yes.
Joel,
yes,
I vote yes. Yeah. Sorry, Earl, I skipped your word last time. Earl,
No, fine. Yes.
you're going the opposite way. Tom,
Dude, sorry.
I was sleeping.
No, I'm reading.
Main question. Yes or no?
On bylaws.
Yes.
to the actual,
Leslie. Dan,
yes,
Beth,
No.
Alex. Zach,
No.
motion passes.
Okay. All right, so. Do we want to?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I go back to my motion?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, so we need to tackle the issue that we don't currently have a board, which isn't something that this proposal provided for us, is news we didn't get to before, so. So Leslie's made a motion to appoint Dan,
For what term, Leslie? 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, happy hour
You
prices.
don't have those terms yet.
There you go.
Yeah, we just
approved
those would start in June, you're proposing to
So
appoint him
let's
now,
do,
so
to
that we
appoint
have.
immediately for and then for a subsequent term up.
Of 25 to 28.
But we don't,
Yeah.
so the biggest thing is we don't know if we, like, we have to notify the lenders, any of these people for any of the guards.
Yeah, he just said
any of the
no,
guards.
he just said we don't.
No.
Patrick, may I say something?
Okay,
Like, there's a
If
lot.
I understand it right, your amendment was that, Dan's amendment was that you couldn't have more than two.
No,
direct-
officers,
Officers.
Not board members.
not board members.
Two officers of the board,
Mhm.
not to be on the board, but you could have 5 directors of the board.
yes,
Okay,
Sure.
I'm
You
fine.
can-
I have nothing,
Yeah.
I'm just like.
So let's
you can draft
To
that.
clarify the motion, you're to appoint Dan immediately for, and then subsequently for a 3.5 year term.
I feel like I'm at home.
25 to 28.
You just be quiet.
A 3.5 year term.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
but that would take effect, yeah, so you're
Come
both
on.
gap filling and then getting one.
I second that motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
Wow.
all in favor?
I gotta
Aye.
see this.
You want a roll call?
Yes, roll call.
A roll call have been requested,
Just think of it.
Patrick,
yes.
I don't know.
Alana,
Really don't.
I have a
I have
question.
an ordinance.
For last week.
Hold up.
You have a point of clarification? Go ahead.
I'm just trying to think of what my question, I had a question.
The biggest thing is.
Is there a benefit to approving Dan now versus to the June 1st?
You need a board.
You need one, they can't meet, they can't
Yeah,
function.
yeah,
This is for an interim, okay,
No.
as opposed to like ad hoc.
Alana, you have 2 directors now.
They can't do
really
business.
can't.
Okay. Okay, guys, we're in the middle of the vote.
Thank you, yes.
Earl,
Oh, yes, stick it to him.
Joel,
yes,
I vote yes. Tom,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Dan,
You have to abstain.
Beth,
I'm gonna abstain.
Alex,
He can't see this.
Alex, okay.
I'm gonna abstain.
okay, Zach,
Abstain.
the motion passes.
Okay. All right, thank you, guys. We're through that.
Yeah.
So we'll, between now and our next meeting, we'll, with Nick, develop a process, not unlike what we did, when the seat that Zach has, came up, to how to put the application process out there, okay?
So,
Yeah.
Are we gonna communicate now that he's been installed? We need to communicate that out to the community.
Sure, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no problem.
Excuse me,
Unless you don't-
can I just, just a point.
Anything to help out my.
Second point of order.
Yes.
So, the main motion that we just passed asks two of our colleagues, Alex and Zach, to reapply.
Right,
That's why I said no.
Is there a second, is there a motion to?
we dropped the ball on that, because the thought was initially, wasn't a reapplication, but to.
no, it was to not presume they wanna continue, so I wanted to give them another option to say, if, whatever you wanna do. It's
I'm
not like-
assuming you're staying on.
One
Right.
meeting.
Isn't his term still run and
Correct.
and yours is up and?
And it gives them the ability, if they don't want to.
Well, y'all
So
are
you're
here,
not
I don't wanna
forcing
speak with you all not being here.
Yes, go ahead,
No,
Chris.
but so does this affect it? This takes, we have to reapply?
No,
No.
You are within a term
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah. But this is effective June 1st to
Yes.
reapply and then get reappointed.
Yes,
It's just asking your
So you-
preference,
and
just to stay on, because you have a term that still extends past June.
But then you guys have to take another vote to get me to.
I motion,
Yeah.
to make a motion.
yes,
I motion to immediately appoint Alex and Zach for 1.5-year terms per the motion that we just passed.
I'll second
That
it.
would mean that you don't have to apply.
I'll second.
Can I amend that for a sec? Can we also add
No.
Tom to that?
You can propose.
Yeah, what?
That's not, we gotta deal with this motion first, Joel.
Alright,
This is
fine, no problem, no
doesn't
problem, no
connect.
problem.
This is gonna get, yeah.
So but the motion is basically you would get one,
Yeah.
and that would preclude you from replying. Does that make sense?
Yes.
question, can y'all speak and just tell me your dispositions, because we're speaking around you all, and I think that's.
So my biggest concern is like this, and again, I get you are time sensitive, but there has to be much more communication than we're doing in general versus just like an email. And so like moving forward, I think there has to be much more communication between all of us. If you guys are gonna wanna, if you are gonna wanna run or help run or be part of that, you can't just blindside us with this stuff. And so like that's my biggest concern. It's not really.
I respect that.
And I think that's probably what happened with it at this point, where Bob threw a short leash and everyone's kind of frustrated. It's like, you guys.
It would, we would have to call a quorum for the water company at some point to appoint a president.
That's your guys,
You all do that amongst yourself.
you don't have your hand up?
I have my hand, I make a motion that we appoint Tom to the water company.
You gotta deal with the motion again.
Okay, fine.
So my ask is, Alex hadn't said much. I have an immense amount of respect for Alex. I'd like to hear what you think about all of this.
You like to hear what I think about it?
Of course, sir.
Over the years, I don't have a problem if you guys, like you said before, if you don't like the way we do things, tell us. Not come up with, all you said that came up. Where did that come from? So that means somebody must have been working on this. We're doing one thing and there's another group doing other things. There's always been that situation where trust. Like we're, I don't know, you don't trust us, then tell us. You know,
I think, I don't know how we formalize this, Patrick. I defer to you as the president, the rest of the board members. But there's always been this, like, people say but don't really say. Let's just pull a scat back. There's a misalignment and there's a distrust. My hope is that we can truly work in a collective partnership on a consistent basis. And however yourself, Zach, Alex, now with Dan coming up, however you all want to move forward, I completely support. But my ask is that we don't meet and it's just for the purpose of meeting. No, let's meet for the purpose of actually moving forward. And I can't speak about what happened prior, but I do know that we on the board own some of the disconnect. And to not own it means that we're not being transparent. The hope is that moving forward from today on, this is no longer an issue and that both sides can be held accountable for dropping the ball.
Hold on, I just wanna say this is not a matter of not trusting you guys. I'm not gonna go into details of what and this was my idea, right?
This came from me,
This came
yeah.
from me and only me, and it was born out of a situation that happened that frustrated me, and it wasn't about any individual water company board members at all. It was just about the process and the inability to really to control. I'm being vague on purpose, but I hope you guys understand what I'm getting at. That's where it comes from. Has nothing to do with not trusting you guys. In fact, the proposal's on the table to reappoint you guys, and I'm in favor of it. So, so I want to make sure that's clear, and I want to make sure that it was not a group or a faction having come up with something, you know, or some conversation. It was solely me. And by the way, proper notice was given under the bylaws. I just want to make that clear as well.
In the spirit of affirming our trust in our colleagues' current seats on the boards, I request a roll call vote for the motion on the table.
Okay, and just to clarify, the motion is?
The motion is to appoint Alex and Zach for 1.5-year terms beginning on June 1st.
And I'm a yes.
Alana,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
I vote yes. Tom,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yeah.
Dan,
Yes.
Yes.
Alex, do you care to vote?
No.
Abstaining or
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, all right.
Can I make a motion to appoint Tom as the other person?
You know, you have a motion now to do the other things by June.
Yeah, the other.
Yeah,
We've already talked
Okay,
about
fine.
that.
you can make whatever motion you
You
want,
can
but
make the motion, just.
It ain't gonna fly, but I appreciate it.
Whatever, I thought he's the most experienced, he's got the most water company experience on the board, so.
And bring it up in June.
I think Joel, I think the issue is that that leaves us talking out of both sides of our mouths. We just said that we wanted to have an open application process that invites
Fine, done.
folks from the community to come in. We appointed Dan immediately because they need a quorum so they can do business.
I'm good.
all right, let's go. We spent a lot of time on that. I really appreciate everyone's insight and input on that, and getting that through. All right, we're gonna move to the financial review. Joel, since you're still with us, board members have 8 of your board book at the March 2025 financials. Again, apologies that we got those to you only yesterday. We hadn't gotten them from the accountants before then. And I know Joel was traveling and unable to prepare his usual variance report. So I think that'll go out soon. But Joel, if you want to present these, I think your suggestion is we don't vote on them, but let him present them and then I'll recognize it.
So I just got these on Friday, late Friday.
Joel, can I ask you to pause for 1 second? Leslie has a question because she's got to leave.
Yeah, I sent an email with my questions regarding the, you guys know what it was?
I have it.
Yeah, okay, I just have to go to
Okay,
the little
alright.
clock in, Rock Hill.
Okay, go ahead, Joel.
Okay, so we got these financials late. I did not get a chance to review them. I looked at the funding schedule. I had some inconsistencies on the funding. So I recommend that we don't approve them and let me make a chance to get them out to you guys, and then we can approve them by vote, an email vote, or we can approve them next month. So it's up to you guys, but that's my recommendation.
Okay. Anybody burning to approve these?
No,
All right.
a motion to postpone.
We don't even need to.
We don't.
Yeah, we just let it down the line. Okay, so we'll come back and approve the March 2025 financials in our next meeting. Quick update on, this is for the membership in the community. Our 2024 financial audit is complete. We have our audit report and our audited financials. The board voted to approve the financials. Those will be posted on our website that members can access. So you'll have our 2024 financials. And then our budget.
Email them. Can we email them to the community?
No.
Do we typically do that?
No.
I don't know.
It's posted.
It's usually posted behind a password.
Posted.
Yeah, I think we want to make sure. Yeah, we'll make sure there are people who have the right to access them only can access them. So
Okay, but if anybody can access them, they should call the office and we'll help you get them.
yeah, of course. The audit itself identified a couple of governance and controls that we need to tighten up. So our budget AR and audit committee, newly tagged as additionally at the audit committee. We're going to sit down with Nick the 12th, I think, of May, 5 p.m. and go over that. Okay. All right. Anything else on the financials, Joe, or can we move along?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
Joel, could you just double, I sent an email last night, if you could take a look at this one.
We will,
yeah.
we will do that.
Leslie had questions as well, Joel, those were in email, if you could respond to that.
But I think Nick answered them because she wanted to know what the accounting piece was. So he answered.
Oh, and Nick responded, okay, good. All right, let's move along to the water company update, I'm not sure, Bob, you're prepared to do that?
All I'm happy to say is it's over, we finally got the approval. Just so you get an idea of what it is, the commission has decided that they're gonna give us an increase in an annual delivery revenue of $226,509, representing a 36.68% increase in our water, which will be divided in between the tariffs and so forth. It also states that, they want us to cancel one of the escrow accounts, which the future treasurer and so forth would have to work that out, and that's easy. There's 2 escrow accounts, and we'll need 1. They want us to file a meter testing replacement plan. What they want us to do to certain meters we have out there, we have to take meters off that are out there to our users, put new meters in, bring them back, test them at a board, and then put them back in inventory. And that's required based on a schedule they have based on the users. Once a year, once every 3 years, once every 4 years, once every 5 years. So every meter that we have out there that we're getting paid for is gonna have to be tested. So we have to set up a board and a testing and have the people trained for that. We do have the 2 fellows that they know how to do that at this particular point now. And the other is, they want us to, our postage, this is a back end of approval on doing away with the automatic mailing monthly, and even though they did give us an increase of $9,000 in our postage. That was, picked up what they failed to do 5 years ago when we had the rate case. They forgot to put a 0 in instead of $6,000, they made it $600. So for the last 4.5 years, we've been paying the rate of postage and only being recovering $600 a year with reference to that now. It's now $9,000 a year, so we'll be able to recover some of the money we lost over the years. They wouldn't change and put that other 0 in. But what they're saying is that, the decision, they want us to, the tariff revision, they want us to notify the customers of the commission's decision. So we have to know, and Nick and I have already talked this morning, we have talked to the commission tomorrow, not tomorrow, yes, tomorrow's Monday. Talk to the commission and see if we can do it at the same time so we can start the process of collecting the money May 1st, or whether they want us to notify the users first and then hold us off until July 1st. June 1st, I'm sorry, June 1st. But going back, we can do away with the mailing, was it's automatic on a monthly basis, and we just have to mail the people that want to get the mail. Also, I recommend that, we charge a fee for doing that portion of it, say $10, and that's just, and there's only about 9 or 10 people that are doing that. Most of the people either pay by check, they get it in their emails, or they're automatic charged to their checking account, savings accounts, or whatever. So that'll relieve that postage, and we'll have an opportunity for at least until the next rate case to recover the postage that we paid over for the last 4
So you want them to formally opt into mailing?
Or they pay a premium.
Got it.
Yeah, pay their bill on a monthly basis. Like I haven't seen a bill, I get an email, I get a bill in the mail. It's just such a waste, not only paper and postage and everything else, and time. So that's gonna be taken care of. So that's a back end of their approval for that. So
I got one question, Bob. How many meters do you all have that you think is in the field?
Over 900.
So basically, you can either go in and test them in place, you pop them out, test them, put them back, or you
Rotate.
put a meter in, take the meter out, take 10 out or 8 out in a day and service them and put them back in. It's doable, and there's a process for it, and it's,
Yeah.
something we've already.
Hey, guys, I'm I'm signing off, so see you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification for the water users on and I know you were gonna send an email out to everybody. The standard monthly rate, the $46 or so for the meter, that remains the same. The 37% is on your usage, correct?
Yeah, and there's also in there the portion that where we had for the escrow account, to move that. That fee's going back in to build up that again, to recover.
So we'll have the
And-
emergency
and
repair.
To be honest with you, we have to look at that, how they send it back down to us, and we haven't gotten that copy yet, so Nick is gonna talk to Josh tomorrow at the Public Service Commission, and hopefully he'll get the answers in that, and I'm sure he'll share that information with me, so forth.
And those
Just so
rates
we
will
know.
start in the June 1st bill or?
I hope we can start on the May 1st bill.
Okay, next month.
So I would caution, because today is 27th. Someone's gonna get an email tomorrow or Tuesday, and they're gonna blow their lid. I think this is something that probably needs to have some type of town hall. I know we don't think it is impacting, it may not impact us, but we really need to disposition ourselves and look at it from the community at large. And I understand, Bob, we really would like to get it May 1st. It doesn't mean nothing to me, I got it.
Well, I think, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Liberty did one and had their approval a couple of months ago. They just put it in the newspaper and billed their customers.
I think you're spot on, but that's.
We're gonna do different than that. We're gonna notify them as part of the bill.
I just think Liberty has an advantage because they're a municipality. This community is a very niche, chitty chatty, us against them. And I think it would behoove us to at least consider having a town hall, even if that town hall was over the phone in a Zoom environment. But to just do it randomly, I think we're gonna open up a can of worms. That's all I'm saying.
We've been talking about the rate taken out for the last 3.5 years or so forth.
It's not really a choice though, right? I mean,
No,
it's
it's
just
not a
what it
choice.
is.
It's not a
So
choice.
I don't think giving, I mean,
It's like, we're
I don't
talking
think
about.
that giving.
let me get control back up here. Okay, Nick, and then we're gonna move.
Two things, we have to follow whatever requirement the PSC tells us as far as notice goes,
Right.
and whatever advance we have to give them.
Yeah.
So if it's 30 days, two weeks, 7 days, we'll follow that. And that'll be the first threshold. It's not a bad idea what Earl was saying, but we have to first find out what PSC is
Right.
gonna require us to do. But we will definitely,
Okay.
in the meeting that the water company is going to have, because they're gonna have an emergency meeting probably today, we'll discuss that and we'll report back.
Perfect, thank you.
What's the status of the project? The water piece. What's the status of the project? We, at this particular point, we're still waiting for the engineers to put it out for bid. We have some situation where we have the letter on what that might run, that hasn't been acted on as yet, that's been turned over to Nick at this point, he's in the process of working with that. And, everything else is just waiting for the Public Service Commission to, looking for the rates. They want the 5 bids that we had 5 bids we had for the credit. They were very pleased when I told, well, Josh was very pleased, the guy we deal with was very pleased that we had a 20-year payout from a bank. He thought he wasn't gonna talk about the rate, but it sounded like it was a reasonable rate. And how it was gonna be handled on a maturity basis, where we wouldn't have to, the rate would change every 5 to 7 years. And I don't have the letter in front of me, I think it was every 7 years, that'll be an automatic change, so that would save legal fees and so forth, as opposed to having them mature under the thing and negotiate, so it'll be a 20-year payout with a 5 or 7 year maturity, and that could change. There's a floor and there's a ceiling on the loan itself, and we have the letter. The bank didn't want any money from us yet, so we get the actual commitment letter. This was just a term sheet. And we'll see what that's gonna be, but that's what we're working at this point. Public Service Commission wants the declination for the banks that didn't do it. They wouldn't send me a declaration. Some of the banks that don't even bother sending it, but we're not interested, period. And they don't want to own the water company. I asked them how they would handle it in the event of non-payment. They said they would foreclose, sell it to the highest bidder, and be done with it. So that's how that would work, because they don't want to run a water company either. But they do want our red out.
Dan, and then earlier to wrap this up so we can keep moving on. It's 11:15 almost.
Point noted with Earl, I would just add, you know, obviously we defer to whatever the PSC says, but, I see the water company, as more of a subordinate of the POA. So if the POA determines that there should be some sort of workshop or, community town hall notice or something, then, you know, I would probably be inclined to say something like that, but I don't think that we necessarily need something like that, in my personal opinion, because we've been talking about this rate case now inside this board room for several years. And a lot of the lawyers understanding that the rate case has taken its time and they know that it's coming. So I don't think that this is necessarily just a shock to them.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you. And also, thanks again for all the years of service. We really appreciate it.
And I'm around. So.
Okay, yes, and thanks for agreeing to help. All right, we're gonna move on to the committees. Joel has left us, but provided email reports for the lakes and pool committees meetings that were held. Those you can find at tabs 10 and 11 of your board books. One thing I want to note is Margaret Perkins, who's working with a group of volunteers from our community on the previously approved CSLAP program. That's the Citizen Monitoring and Reporting Program that is run by DEC, where they train local volunteers to help monitor, test and monitor our lakes. The initial indications and reports back from the DEC were very good. And the indications are that most of the elements, indicators, and plant species tested are stable. So Margaret asked if I would just point that out. We're gonna make the DEC reports themselves available to EGPOA members on our website. We'll create a place for them, so y'all can find them there, all right? In terms of the other committees, bylaws not meet, oversight has a meeting on Tuesday. Great. Strategic planning and finance, we're within 2 weeks, we're setting up the next meeting for that. Anything from events and welcoming?
If you did not see the notice from Nick, there is gonna be a third round of the Mahjong class. It's very well attended, very popular. It's a 2-part series. You have to sign up for both on May 3rd and May 17th. You could just call the office if you need to get on the list. And then Chris and I are meeting after this meeting to send out a notice for when the official events meeting to set the calendar will be. Lee, I sent you an email, but your mailbox is full, if you can hear me.
Okay, thanks for that. So our next regular board meeting will be on the 18th of May. Again, here and by Zoom. So with that, thanks everybody for coming. And we should go into our executive session, which hopefully we can get through rather quickly.
Motion to move to executive?
Okay, second that, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any accused, any abstentions? Hearing none, here we go. All right. So folks on the Zoom, if you would, just, I think we can actually end the Zoom. There are no board members on, right? Okay. So we're gonna end the Zoom, end the recording now, and move into executive session. Thanks, everybody.
Hello?